The movie opens by revealing that it's inspired by a true story from the Kuma cemetery in Çankırı, Turkey. According to the legend, a newborn baby and the baby's mother were buried in separate graves. But no matter how many times the graves were separated, they mysteriously merged back together. To this day, no one has been able to explain why. The story then cuts to a man sitting alone. He pours something from a bottle into a bowl and drinks it. Within seconds, he starts coughing up blood. Before anyone can help him, he collapses and dies. The scene shifts to a woman named Hicran, who is desperately trying to calm her crying baby boy, Birol. At the same time, Adnan is at work in a hotel, asking one of his coworkers why he showed up late. The coworker explains that he worked the night shift and was so exhausted that he slept through his alarm. Adnan tells him to arrange blankets for room 207 before walking away. Back at home, Hicran finally manages to soothe Birol. She takes him to the bedroom, leaves him playing with his toys, and heads to the kitchen. Meanwhile, Adnan leaves the hotel and calls her. Hicran tells him that Birol has been crying non-stop since morning, but has finally settled down. Adnan says he's already on his way home. A few moments later, while Hicran is busy in the kitchen, the cabinet next to Birol begins shaking on its own. Without warning, it tips over and crashes down on top of him. Hearing the loud noise, Hicran rushes into the room. She desperately tries to lift the heavy cabinet while screaming her son's name in panic. The story jumps ahead 3 months. Hicran is now at Kuma cemetery, quietly brushing dried leaves off Birol's grave. The loss has destroyed her family. Adnan blames Hicran for their son's death. Consumed by grief and anger, he tells her that no woman like her should ever become a mother. Those words completely shatter Hicran. Through tears, she says that if she had known what was about to happen, she would never have left Birol alone. She can't stop blaming herself. Sitting in the very room where her son died, she apologizes over and over, begging for forgiveness. As she breaks down, 2 dark shadowy figures silently appear inside the room. At the hotel, Adnan watches an old video of Birol on his phone and quietly cries, unable to accept that his son is gone. At the same time, Hicran hugs Birol's old toys and weeps. Just then, Adnan suddenly walks into the house. He tells Hicran that he met his brother on the way home and says he was happy because Adnan named his son after him. Then he casually asks, "Where's Birol?" Before Hicran can even respond, someone knocks on the front door. She walks over and hears Adnan's voice coming from outside. Confused, she turns around and realizes that the Adnan who had been standing inside the house has completely vanished. She slowly opens the door, and the real Adnan walks in as if nothing happened. The following day, Hicran tells Ainur everything that's been happening. After listening carefully, Ainur asks how long ago Adnan's brother died. Hicran explains that about 15 years earlier, Adnan's older brother, who was also named Birol, was killed in a tragic accident. To honor his memory, they later gave the same name to their own son. Ainur suggests that Hicran visit a respected spiritual healer named Abdullah Hoka to help her overcome her severe depression. But Hicran instantly snaps at the idea and refuses to hear another word about him. She says that ever since her little son was buried in the cold ground, she refuses to sleep with a blanket at night because she wants to feel the same cold he does. Every single day, she still washes his clothes as if he's coming home. The story then shifts to Nevros village, where 2 women are seen praying. At the same time, Hicran is walking home when she notices an old cabinet by the roadside. Behind it, 2 strange women are silently standing and staring at her. She blinks, and they're gone. Terrified, Hicran quietly prays to Allah for protection from evil forces before hurrying away. That night, the nightmare gets even worse. Hicran sees those same women again, but this time they're performing something horrifying. They rip open another woman's stomach and pull a baby out of her body. Just as the terrifying vision reaches its peak, Adnan suddenly appears, and everything instantly returns to normal, as if nothing ever happened. Back in Nevros village, a woman complains to her mother-in-law that even after spending 35 years in the family, she has never been treated with the same kindness everyone shows Hicran. Meanwhile, Hicran washes little Birol's clothes and hangs them outside to dry. She begs Adnan to talk to her, but he remains completely silent. Heartbroken, she visits her son's grave, apologizes through tears, talks about how cold the winter has become, and desperately begs him to come back to her. While standing there, she once again spots the same two mysterious women watching her from a distance. Panic takes over, and she quickly leaves the cemetery. That night, Hicran returns home only to find that Barol's clothes have mysteriously disappeared from the clothesline. She rushes upstairs and realizes that all of his toys are gone as well. Suddenly, something that looks like a small child darts across the room. Frightened beyond words, Hicran runs outside, only to discover that Barol's clothes have somehow reappeared on the clothesline as if they had never vanished. The next day, Aner finally convinces Hicran to visit Abdullah Hoka. After welcoming her inside, Hoka asks Aner to wait outside. He tells Hicran to write her name 3 times on a sheet of paper. Then he pricks her finger, smears a drop of her blood onto the paper, folds it, places it inside a glass of water, recites protective prayers over it, blows into the glass, and gives the water to a young boy sitting beside him to drink. When Hoka asks about her condition, Hicran explains that the supernatural events have become far more intense over the past week, although she's sensed strange things ever since she was a child. To comfort her, Abdullah Hoka reminds her of the story of Hazrat Sumayya, R.A., the first female martyr in Islam, who endured Abu Jahl's brutal torture but never abandoned her faith. He explains that evil exists in this world because it tests the strength of people's belief and goodness. He then begins chanting mysterious spiritual words in an unfamiliar language, attempting to communicate with the unseen world. During the ritual, the young boy quietly walks over to him. Once the ceremony is finished, Hoka sends the boy away and expresses his sympathy for Hicran's deceased son, telling her that the innocent child will surely be granted paradise by Allah. Finally, Hoka asks about her relationship with her aunt. Hicran reveals that after her father's death, a bitter land dispute caused her mother and aunt to cut off all contact. She also admits that she never really knew her father because he took his own life when she was still very young. After listening carefully, Abdullah Hoka reveals the terrifying truth. He believes Hicran has become the victim of an ancient and extremely powerful form of black magic, known as the 41 Knots spell, one of the darkest and most dangerous curses imaginable. Pulling off this kind of black magic is impossible unless it's done by a ruthless master sorcerer, someone powerful enough to call upon evil jinn from the depths of hell. Hicran desperately wants to know who would do something so horrific to her and why. Hoka tells her the curse came from someone within her own family, an aunt who has always been consumed by jealousy. He promises to help, but warns that until they uncover the true purpose behind the spell, breaking this deadly curse is impossible. He tells Hicran to keep her faith in God and find the strength to stand against the dark forces haunting her. Before she leaves, Abdullah Hoka asks her to hang the blessed Ayatul Kursi back on the wall of her home for protection. After returning home, Hicran is busy sewing when she suddenly witnesses a horrifying vision. A woman is brutally cutting out another woman's tongue. The terrifying image disappears as quickly as it appears. That same night, Hicran rushes to her mother's house. Her mother is shocked to see her arrive so late. Hicran immediately hugs her grandmother tightly, prays that all of her worship is accepted, and explains why she came. She says she dreamed that both of them were suffering from a terrible illness, and the nightmare frightened her so much that she couldn't stay away. Her family reassures her that they're completely fine. Later, Hicran asks her mother about her aunt. Her mother explains that they barely keep in touch anymore, and reveals that the aunt has been diagnosed with breast cancer. When Hicran asks about Aunt Zara and why her husband took his own life, her mother grows emotional. She explains that Zara's husband lost everything they owned because of his gambling addiction. After becoming an alcoholic, he committed an unthinkable crime. He murdered Zara and their 2 young children before taking his own life. Her mother says she's been carrying the weight of that tragedy for the past 25 years. Hicran then learns that the 2 innocent children, Gulbahar and Gulzar, were only 9 and 4 years old. Feeling guilty for bringing back such painful memories, Hicran apologizes and says she'll call Adnan to let him know she's there. Hicran calls Adnan, but the moment he sees her name on his phone, he chooses not to answer. Heartbroken, Hicran hugs her grandmother and finally breaks down. She confesses that losing her son, Birol, still destroys her every single day. Not for a single moment can she forget him, and she feels like she's been punishing herself ever since. Through tears, she asked her grandmother how she survived the pain of losing a child. She wonders if staying silent really makes grief any easier to bear. Listening to her daughter's pain, Hicran's mother can't hold back her own tears. That night while sleeping, Hicran's mother suddenly feels something is terribly wrong. She wakes up in panic and sees her pillow soaking in blood. Even more horrifying, it looks as if something is crawling out from inside it. Then, in the blink of an eye, everything returns to normal, leaving her terrified and confused. The next morning at the hotel reception, a woman asks Adnan for a favor. She needs to visit the dentist and asks if he can watch her young son, Arda, for a little while. Adnan agrees and gently picks the little boy up in his arms. After thanking him, the boy's mother leaves. At the same time, Hicran says goodbye to her mother and heads home. Meanwhile, Adnan becomes lost in emotion. Looking at Arda, he begins imagining that the child is his late son, Birol, and showers him with affection. But the illusion shatters the moment Arda's father arrives and calls out to his son. Reality hits Adnan all at once, reminding him that Birol is gone forever. Hicran travels to the village of Nevruz and meets an elderly man named Cevdet. She introduces herself and asks if he knows anything about her Aunt Zara. Cevdet tells her that Zara left the village 15 to 20 years ago, and no one has known where she went ever since. Meanwhile, Adnan returns home from work and takes something out of a drawer. He walks to his son Birol's grave and plays some old videos of him. Watching the memories overwhelms him with grief. Unable to bear the pain any longer, Adnan pulls out a gun and takes his own life. A little later, Hicran tries calling Adnan, but by then it's already too late. Still searching for answers, Hicran asks a young woman about her Aunt Zara. The girl immediately warns her to stay away, saying Zara's house is cursed and haunted by jinn. According to local rumors, the evil presence drove Zara's husband insane. He murdered his wife and their 2 daughters, and ever since then, no shaman has ever managed to enter the house alive. Even after giving that terrifying warning, the girl points Hicran toward the abandoned house. As the girl walks away, Hicran notices the same 2 mysterious women silently standing right behind her. They disappear as quickly as they appear, leaving Hicran deeply unsettled. Hicran finally arrives at Zara's house. From the outside, it already looks abandoned and filled with darkness. The moment she steps inside, the front door slams shut behind her on its own. The sudden noise frightens her, but she gathers her courage and keeps moving. As soon as she enters the bedroom, she catches a glimpse of her aunt's 2 daughters standing behind her. Then the blanket on the bed suddenly starts moving by itself. When Hicran pulls it back, she finds nothing but an old doll lying underneath. At that exact moment, her uncle slowly walks toward her. Terrified, Hicran grabs the doll and rushes out of the house. That night, she returns home. Her mother tells her she had been worried because Hicran wasn't answering her phone, but Hicran brushes it off with an excuse. Claiming she has a headache, she goes straight to her bedroom. Once alone, Hicran carefully examines the strange doll. Just then, her mother comes in with a new pillow. Hicran asks if they have any old photographs of Aunt Zara. Her mother tells her to look through the family's old photo cabinet. While searching through the pictures, Hicran eventually falls asleep. In her dream, every terrifying event she's experienced flashes before her, and she suddenly wakes up screaming. Her mother comforts her and tells her to get some rest before leaving to perform her prayers. As Hicran's mother enters her mother-in-law's room to get her prayer clothes, she suddenly hears a woman crying from inside the wardrobe, begging, "Please, give me back my son." Shaking with fear, she slowly opens the wardrobe, but it's completely empty. The moment she closes it and turns around, the voice returns, this time sounding even more furious. "You stole my child, and you've hidden him from me." Terrified, she opens the wardrobe again. This time, Zara and her 2 daughters are standing inside, staring directly at her. At that exact moment, Hicran walks into the room. When Hicran asks her mother if everything is okay, she insists that nothing is wrong. The next morning, Hicran says goodbye to her grandmother and gets ready to head back home. She tells her family that she still can't reach Adnan. His phone has been switched off and she's becoming more worried by the minute. Her mother begs her to stay a little longer, but Hicran promises she'll return soon. As soon as she gets back, Hicran goes straight to Adnan's hotel and speaks with his co-worker Simil. She explains that Adnan isn't answering his phone and that it's been turned off. Unfortunately, Simil has no idea where Adnan is or what could have happened to him. When Hicran finally returns home, she suddenly hears Birol crying. She rushes into the bedroom and is horrified to see her aunt sitting beside Birol's cradle. Her aunt quietly tells her that she was once expecting a son of her own. Terrified, Hicran runs out of the house and goes directly to Abdullah Hoka for help. Abdullah Hoka examines the strange doll Hicran brought with her. He tears open its stomach and pulls out a hidden piece of cloth. Then he reveals the horrifying truth. This is the infamous 41-stitch doll. He explains that Hicran's aunt performed an ancient black magic ritual with the help of evil spirits, hoping to destroy the entire family. The curse was so powerful that it was designed to pass from one generation to the next. Hoka asks Hicran whether she's told her mother the truth. She admits she couldn't bring herself to reveal something so devastating to her elderly mother. Hoka warns her that she has no choice. Evil jinn wait patiently for the perfect moment to strike, and keeping this secret will only make things worse. Hicran wonders how she could possibly tell her mother that her aunt, who died many years ago, was responsible for such an evil act. After all, her mother mourned her sister's death even more deeply than her own husband's. Abdullah Hoka tells Hicran to bring her mother to him because only she knows the hidden truth about the family's past. Until this black magic is completely broken, Hicran will never find peace. Meanwhile, Hicran's mother brings medicine for her elderly mother-in-law. As she helps her take it, she sadly says that Hicran is mentally falling apart. But without warning, something horrifying happens. Her face suddenly twists, her skin turns pale, and she collapses dead on the spot. Witnessing the terrifying scene, Hicran's grandmother walks out of the room and immediately begins praying. A short time later, Hicran returns home and finds her grandmother sitting silently. Although unable to speak, the old woman finally reveals the shocking truth. She explains that Hicran's adoptive mother, Nesmiye, was consumed with jealousy toward her sister Zara. After Zara gave birth to 2 daughters, her husband Ramazan desperately wanted a son. Nesmiye took advantage of that desire. She invited the grandmother to their house, pretending she could perform a ritual that would guarantee the birth of a baby boy. The grandmother confesses that Nesmi begged her to perform the forbidden ritual, and she agreed. Under the disguise of a fertility blessing, they carried out the merciless 41-stitch black magic ritual. Their real goal was to destroy Zara and Ramazan's entire family. As part of the ritual, the grandmother instructed Zara to keep the 41-stitch doll beneath her pillow. But the doll wasn't ordinary. It was actually a cursed effigy of Ramazan himself. After that, the evil jinn slowly destroyed Ramazan's sanity until he was completely under its control. In a horrifying state of madness, he tricked his own children into playing a game of hide-and-seek and brutally murdered them. Overwhelmed with guilt, the grandmother finally confesses the terrible sin she committed. After killing the girls, Ramazan went after Zara, but when he found her praying, he couldn't get close to her. Instead, he walked outside, poured fuel over himself, set himself on fire, and took his own life. Shocked and furious, Hicran demands to know how her grandmother could commit such a monstrous crime. She also asks the question that's haunted her for years: what really happened to my mother? The grandmother then reveals an even darker secret. After Ramazan lost his mind, they brought Zara back home. There, she gave birth to Hicran through premature delivery. Everyone had been told that Zara died from excessive bleeding during childbirth. But that wasn't the truth. Hicran is actually Zara's biological daughter. Since Nesmiye was unable to have children, she stole the baby and raised Hicran as her own. The grandmother tearfully admits that they kidnapped Hicran and lied to her for her entire life. Completely numb, Hicran asks if Aunt Zara was really her mother, and if she truly died while giving birth. The grandmother shakes her head and reveals the most horrifying truth of all. Zara didn't die during childbirth. Nesmi murdered her by suffocating her with a pillow. That revelation completely shatters Hicran. She realizes that Nesmiye and her grandmother were responsible for destroying her entire family. They brutally killed her real mother, her father, and her 2 sisters. Filled with rage and heartbreak, Hicran screams for justice and demands to know where Nesmiye is. Moments later, she finds Nesmiye's lifeless body lying in terrible condition. Without saying another word, Hicran turns around and walks away. Meanwhile, the grandmother breaks down in tears. She says her own son had become her greatest enemy because he once told her, "A mother who truly has a child could never kill another mother's child." He cursed her for the monster she had become, saying that God had punished her by taking away the very child she loved. Realizing the weight of her sins, the grandmother repents and begs her son for forgiveness. Back at the house, Hicran sees Adnan once again and apologizes to him as well. The movie ends with a chilling note explaining what happened afterward. Hicran later confessed to Abdullah Hoka that she had unknowingly lived under the same roof as her dead husband, Adnan, and her deceased son, Birol, for nearly 2 months. 15 months after Abdullah Hoka broke the cursed black magic, Hicran remarried and now lives in the town of Biga, Çanakkale. The film closes with a disturbing message. Every single day in Turkey, thousands of people either perform black magic on others or end up becoming victims of it themselves. It also reminds viewers that, in Islam, practicing black magic is strictly forbidden and is considered one of the gravest and most unforgivable sins.